to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
And basically, the reason for this 2 o'clock meeting is that I was going to be attending a conference along with Clausen staff and some of our district leaders, and driving to the location was going to take quite a bit of hours, so that's why we had to move it so that we could get on the road ahead of time. But I am not going to the conference anymore, so I'm here.
I thought it also had to do with the budget.
The budget, and then the budget approval.
Yeah,
and
explain,
upload
no, seriously, for the record and for public consumption, explain that too, Mr. Soto.
Once we propose the budget, we only have 10 days to do the adoption. And that's cutting it short, so we just want to have everything early so we can, after the meeting, we can upload the budget to ADE.
And that's not a 5-minute process, so
Right.
Sonia has to get working on that.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So moving to 1D, approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 3rd, the regular meeting. By Mr. Ramos. Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Chalchal. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann? Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes. Item E, summary of current events, Superintendent.
First of all, I want to take this opportunity and congratulate our DHS students who are part of the Skills USA group. If you recall, Mrs. Barayardos and Ms. Alonso and Josa presented here and introduced the kids. And so Skills USA just attended nationals, and they placed 6th under the robotics and automation category. And our DHS chapter was elected as the top chapter in the nation for the models and of excellence in personal skills. So amongst 12,000 students and sponsors, Douglas High School students were announced as the top model of excellence in personal skills for the nation. So that's a great award that is brought back home to Douglas High School, and so we're very happy and congratulate Mrs. Barayardos and her students for the work that they did at nationals. We did send you a video. Alma sent you a video of that competition, and so you can see it at if you see your email. Then tomorrow, our district office and departments, including maintenance and transportation, will be participating in Ellis training, which is to be held at Stevenson Elementary from 1 to 5 p.m. So our district offices will be closed tomorrow so that the staff here in this building, maintenance and transportation, can attend with other school staff at Stevenson. August 2nd is our welcome back to school orientation for staff, and that is the first day that classified staff report to work and the second day that teachers report to work. So we will be having an orientation at Douglas High School auditorium, and the first day of school is August the 3rd. Believe it or not, here we come. And because of vacancies and still recruiting and doing some hiring, I may have to request for a special meeting later on in July to get some hires approved for the beginning of the year. But that's if we find candidates. And that's all I have.
Okay, and then also want to make sure that it's at 2:30, we have a public hearing on the budget.
Yes.
I don't have the publication for that one, if you don't mind. Do you have an extra one? Members of the board, did you get one for the public hearing?
Just on our background.
It's in there.
I know it's here, but on the iPad, but I want this personally. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll do that. We'll break from whatever we're doing at 2:30. Governing board members, any reports?
Yes, I just
Mr.
wanted to
Ramos.
report on the leadership conference that I attended. And one of the things that caught my attention there was the goals of our students' performance. And are they being met? And one of the questions that they asked is, our students, in the past 3 to 9 years have changed, and we know that, and also has our district staff and our teachers, they've also changed, and our community has changed, and us as board members, what do we have to do now for the newer generation to have a better performance from our students to reach those goals? And this is something I think we should look into, have a little study session or something, talk about it, or something like that.
Noted. All right. Ms. Helshaw, do you have anything? Reports, do you want to do a report, Mr. Soto, on the budget, or do you want to wait till you
Yeah,
get to the budget?
well, this is just the monthly
Right.
balance on the current, the last, at this point, school year. And this is just for the month of June. Just remembering, keep in mind that we haven't closed the books, so there's still an encumbrance period, and those numbers may change. We still have until a few months to close the books. But that's what we have as of right now. I don't know if you have any questions, specific questions.
Members
on
of the
that.
board, any questions regarding the budget?
No.
Of course, we got the major backup here, too.
Right.
If he can't answer the question, we got Sonia sitting up. I always want to mention that.
And
Human resource.
Yes, and I'll be doing, Mrs. Cox is out of the office today, so human resource staffing
ahead.
update. Currently, we are still recruiting, we are still doing interviews as we speak. We're not in bad shape. I do have about three at the middle school at RBMS. We have 3 at Huber, a couple at the high school. There were more at the high school, but it seems that we are going to be filling those with either a qualified long-term sub or a teacher that is being hired under an emergency teacher certificate, which means that they have a bachelor's degree and will have 3 years to become appropriately certified. Stevenson has about 1 vacancy. Joe Carlson has 2 in ESS. And right now, the challenge is ESS and math and science teachers. And that's where we're struggling, and that's across the board in the nation, actually. And so we are working with a recruiting company that is also potentially even going towards offering telehealth kind of services for ESS teachers when districts are not able to find an in-person teacher. So that's in terms of recruiting and staffing. And as far as enrollment, I'm happy to say that we are at 4,030 students as of the end of June. Compared to last year, we were at 3,779. So just to give you an idea of breakdown, our Douglas High School is back closer to the 1,500 students that originally we had years ago. So they're at 1,440 compared to 1,352 from last year. Rayburn and Huber have about a 30 student difference. Huber has 446 students enrolled. RBMS has 414. Stevenson, 448 compared to 404. Sarah Marley, 302 students compared to 268. Ferris, 166 compared to 155, so they're up about 10 students. Joe Carlson, 430, up 5 students. And Clausen, 384 compared to 331. And our Early Learning Center students right now, this is a plus. We are at 51 students, and we were at 4 students last year. So that's a big jump for ELC. So we're happy that our parents are committed to early learning. And that's all I
Members
have.
of the board, not for a full-blown discussion, but just any quick comments regarding that?
Just very relieved and
That we're getting back on
and
track.
excited to hear that more students.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, under reports, we also have something that the board would be very interested in hearing about, and that's school safety and security review. And Augie, I think you're going to give the board an overview of keeping in mind all of the current events and things that the district is doing, what we need to do, but some assurances that our children are being protected.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the governing board, Mrs. Samaniego, Mr. Soto. We've had a very busy month of June, and we're even going to have a busier month of July. In June, we started looking at our emergency response plan. We're updating it, we're making it current. We're going to start doing that quarterly to make sure that we're up to speed for our emergency response plan. I don't have my clicker, so. Updated, revised, go ahead.
It's right there.
Oh, it's right here? Are you doing that or am I doing that?
It's magic.
Quarterly assessments, and that's where we're at. Let's see if we can get going. Like Ms. Samaniego said, we're going to be starting with our ALICE training beginning tomorrow. We do have, it is on a voluntary basis. We do have Stevenson teachers and staff that have already volunteered to come and take this training in the morning. As she said, we're going to do the training in the afternoon for our faculty here that work in the district. ALICE, alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. We recently sent one member to get certified as a ALICE instructor in Wilcox. DPD also sent 2 officers to get certified. So that brings a total of 5 active certified instructors for ALICE training. So the ambition is with those 5 instructors that we get a bulk of our staff members trained prior to the start of the school year. I know that that's our main goal. It's very difficult to put so many moving pieces together, but that's our main goal. We've got 10 trainings already scheduled. The trainings for tomorrow are full, and at the end of the month, we'll be having 8 additional trainings. We also went to crisis prevention intervention training, and that was with myself and another staff member. That training will also be given to our staff. That training will be given to our security staff, and that training will be given to the staff at our ESS department. So they'll be the first ones to receive that training. We've had this training before. 2020, I believe, was the last year we started training along with ALICE. So we've had this training in the past. We just haven't been able to continue the training due to the pandemic and stuff like that. Our security staff, we're building a team. It's taking a little bit, but we're getting a good team put together. We've had some people leave, and we've had some new hires. And I don't see my new hires here, but our security staff will be trained in ALICE and CPI prior to the start of the school year. They'll be getting first aid and CPR training. We'll be training for assaults and fights, any bomb threats and what to do if we receive a bomb threat, going off our checklist, any bus incidents, our normal fire procedures, any kind of maintenance issue as far as like gas leaks, general emergencies, the proper protocol when dealing with hazmat. Intruder, hostage, that's what we're going to try to get the bulk of our training done in. Serious injuries, our sheltering procedures, and evacuations and radio protocol. And that's just for our staff, our security staff. My intentions are to train all the teachers and all the support staff in training and CPI. Like I said, we've got 10 available sessions that we can get everybody trained with in July. CPI will be trained. We'll be training people throughout the school year. Our risk assessments are every day. We're going through our schools every day, and we're checking for how our doors are working, how our locks are working, if our gates are working properly, if our cameras are in good use, if anything needs to be replaced. Our fire alarms, making sure that they're in good working order. They do a pretty good job of letting us know when we have issues. We're looking perimeter assessment. We're finding out if we can put fences up, if that'll help us or if it'll hurt us. We're assessing all that right now. Our ingress and ingress points. So we want to make it to where one entrance is only, you can only use one entrance to come in if you're a visitor or somebody needs to do business at the school. We're going to make sure that they're signing in. We're going to make sure that we're identifying them, that they have their ID. We're going to continue with our clear bag policy. And our large crowd gatherings and sporting events and after-school events, we're going to make sure that we have the amount of staff needed to make sure that everything's covered, all our gates are covered, and we're safe as possible. The documentation and communication as far as practices for fluid communication between our schools and collaboration, I think Ms. Samaniego would probably speak better on that. It's a threat assessment team that we're trying to put together, and I'll let her speak more on that.
So, governing board and staff, obviously in schools, we have children that get referred to a counselor. It could be via a teacher, it could be the parent, it could be the child themselves going to the counselor. And so oftentimes what we see more and more issues with social, emotional, and mental health is that there needs to be better communication between a team of experts, whether that be the counselor, the administrator, and the teachers, and the parents. And so in having conversations over the summer and today with Augie, we definitely need to put something in place, whether it's called the threat assessment team. Schools have an IEP team, and that is for kids in special ed and to address, the needs of that child. And so oftentimes what we've heard in other schools or situations where there's been active shooters is that, there was a child who was, there was a red flag. There was something that student or that adult did and nobody paid attention. And so by providing and having a threat assessment team at each school will hopefully allow us to collaborate together, work with the parents, behavioral health agencies, and our school staff to identify potential kids. And it's not a child that, will eventually do something as drastic or as horrible as that, but that needs help. And so we want that partnership, that communication to be fluid and ongoing to provide services to the children that need it and support systems for parents.
Thank you. And going back to our drills, it's very important that we conduct our drills and keep up with our training. We'll be scheduling drills throughout the school year and continuing with that. Fire drills, our evacuation drills, and our lockdown drills. And that's all I have for right now. Like I said, it's going to be a busy July to prepare for coming back to school. Our children are our highest priority, so we're doing everything on our part to get ready and get prepared.
Thank you very much. That was very informative. I think, and I know it's your top priority, is that we have security in every building.
Yes.
So what are we doing about that?
So in addition to these, the preparation to get staff trained is the conversation that we started having with Mr. Soto, who's responsible for finding the funding source to allow our elementary schools to have a full-time school security, just like the high school and the middle schools do. Currently, elementary is not protected in that sense, and whenever there's situations, we've always shuffled our high school security or our middle school security to assist the elementary principals in dealing with any type of situation that may arise with the child. And so being that elementary schools more and more are becoming more vulnerable, We need to really assess and find the funding so that we can have security officers. So that's where we're at right now. And hopefully by the end of July or sooner, I will have the funding source from Mr. Soto, and which will allow us to potentially hire up to the 5 elementary school security staff that we need.
And I'm confident that the
Yes.
principals are all involved in getting
Yes,
their
and they've been,
concerns.
they've been asking for years. And we always thought, well, the elementaries don't need it, but they need that support. And there's a lot of situations that arise at the school that necessarily don't have to do with a disruptive student that's bringing a weapon or something that can be in danger to others. It can be a disciplinary a temper tantrum, just different things, a person on campus that shouldn't be there. So there's very much of a need at the elementary so that the principals can do their job and not have to multitask and do everything along with security.
Well, we want to encourage the principals to make sure that they express their concerns
Yes.
too, because they're things you wouldn't see or think of, and maybe
Yes.
Augie either, so in their individual buildings, that they let you know. Members of the board, any questions, comments regarding Augie's report?
And thank you, Augie. This has been a really good report, and this is good for not just the board members to know, but our public as well. I do have a question about the clear bag policy at Douglas High School. What about the computer bags?
Yes, that's a pretty good topic. I'm going to get with my team at the high school, and we're going to try to figure something out with that.
Okay.
We do have options. We want to pick the best option, but obviously, protecting the computer is one thing, and being able to see through it and being able to make sure it's safe is another. So, yeah, we are definitely looking at that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ramos, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Augie, very good presentation. My question is, with the security cameras, I know you have them all in all the schools and everything, but there isn't one central place where you can see all the schools? Is that possible? Or
Yes,
Yes.
there's a couple different spots where we can see every school, all the cameras of all the schools. Unfortunately, we don't have somebody that's manning it all the time, watching it. Our schools each have their own cameras, and they are able to monitor their school. But somebody that's monitoring the entire school district, that's something that we probably need to look at and probably need to talk about.
That would be something nice too.
Yes, it would be.
Because right now, Mr. Ramos, what we do is, for example, in Augie's office, he has access to all cameras at all sites. So he's got these big screens. And so anytime a school will say, can you go back and I need from this hour to this hour because I need that caption and that video, he can do that and be there. But Augie is not behind closed doors, 24/7. And Marco also has access if needed to review those cameras, and then obviously the principals do.
Yeah, but it would be nice if we could have one central unit with
One
the
person
entire time the school is open, have somebody
monitoring.
monitoring it, so.
And I will just add that I want to thank Augie. He's been working long hours and long days and working digitally to provide us this presentation, but to update our emergency response plan, to meet with law enforcement. We're working hand in hand with DPD, more so than any other law enforcement agency. And we're going to even have a mock scenario taking place at
Stevenson on the 13th of July.
Stevenson Elementary on July 13th. There's going to be a mock scenario involving staff, and I believe you've invited some students or no students?
We've invited the drama team.
Okay, so drama
So-
students.
We're hoping that they can show.
So you will see police cars, you will see ambulances, you will see the whole works, because it is a mock
Large-scale event.
large-scale event, and we will communicate that to our school community so that they are not thinking that this is practice. And so I want to thank Chief Fullen and the Sheriff Department, Fire Department for collaborating with Augie and planning all of these trainings.
Okay.
Yes, I have to say that they've been very helpful. DPD's been very helpful. They give us everything that we need. Our staff, the principals that I've talked to, they've been very supportive anywhere, and everybody. I mean, our IT department helping us, our maintenance grounds. Everybody has just been pitching in, and it's everybody's responsibility, you know. So they're doing their part, I'm doing mine, and we've, you know, we're rolling now. We're going to do good.
Okay, members of the board, is that it?
That's all.
Thank you very much, Augie.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a top priority, everybody knows it. We don't have any public comments? We've got time for one more item before we get to the public hearing on the budget. So let's go to 2 consent agenda items. A, the approval of the following consent agenda items, payroll and expense voucher reports, 1, 2, and 3. Entertain a motion to approve all 3 of those as presented
So moved.
by Mr. Ramos.
Second.
Second by Ms. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann? Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, we might as well do, we still have time. Let's do item 3. Discussion information on Douglas High School. Well, we don't want to get
Yeah,
into that
I
one.
know.
Let's skip that one and come back to it. Let's do B, discussion action on the Auditor General's recent audit findings of June 15, 2022. Members of the board, if you remember, this is where we told the administration to go back and ascertain whether or not we could do something so that the people that attended that retreat didn't have to pay the full amount. And she does have information regarding that. The board was in full agreement that we do that to benefit our employees and not having to pay that money. So you can briefly tell us what happened. You did speak to the attorney?
Yes, I
and,
did.
So why don't you just bring us up to date on that?
Yes. So I spoke to her, and she has submitted something in writing that I can share and update the Auditor General on. And as I advised you, her preliminary information that she shared with us at last meeting was that there is a provision on our contracts that says, to the extent appropriate for the occasion, the district may provide incidental food and beverages at board meetings, staff meetings, including in-service and staff development activities, trainings, as a diminished fringe benefit in order to foster good working relations and encourage and reward staff participation. So because of that language, although the total expenditure on the meals was exceeded the limit, the staff is allowed to have that fringe benefit according to the contract. So under that amount, there is no repayment that has to be done. However, on the lodging amount, as noted by the auditor, the lodging selected by the district was exceeding by $25 a night per person. And as previously discussed, we would have to do that repayment, and that would equal to $50 per person to reimburse the district for that amount.
So what we want to do here is, first of all, the fact that it was excessive on the lodging, the business department is addressing how that happened, correct? And appropriate action there. And so, members of the board, what I'm going to recommend, not for expediency, but unless there's any, is that we approve that they continue with the attorney, which will cost the district, but as we said before, we're willing to do it. And let them continue with whatever they have to do so that the Auditor General is legally satisfied that we've done everything we can. The other thing, too, I was going to ask, $50 probably doesn't seem like a lot of money to some people. It is a lot of money, and if especially during the summer and at this time for our employees. So is there a way that they could work a payment plan out if it does occur that we can only charge them for the 50? Can you work out a payment plan?
Yeah, we can definitely set up some kind of payroll deductions. It can be done in 2 payments. We've done that before with every other situations that we had, but we can set up a payroll deduction for that payment.
And the bad thing is that administrators can't be paid for anything extra. That's by policy. So we could have said unless we did it as something totally unrelated to what their duties and responsibilities are, but I think that would still conflict. So it would be too bad that we couldn't just say come in on a certain day and do not busy work, but do something that's constructive and then total it to be that $50. Would you look into that? Although I'm sure administrators can't be paid extra for anything. That's not only policy, it's in the statute. Okay, but it would be worth looking into.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to entertain a motion that the administration continue
Mr. Bryan.
with, I'm sorry?
Mr. Bryan.
Yeah, I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to entertain a motion that the administration continue, and they're trying to alleviate this problem with the staff by seeking advice from the attorney, continue to seek advice from an attorney. Would you make that motion?
Yes.
By Mr. Ramos, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salchow.
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann.
Yes.
Mr. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Bryan.
Yes, okay, we're going to recess the regular meeting, and we're going to go into the public hearing. And in that public hearing, the governing board shall hold the public hearing pursuant to ARS 15-905 on fiscal year 2022-23 district annual expenditure budget at 2:30. Any other business or discussion which may be occurring at that time shall be interrupted to begin the public hearing promptly at 2:30 p.m. Immediately following the public hearing, the board shall resume its meeting for the purpose of discussion and action on the adoption of the fiscal year 2022-23 district annual expenditure budget. The board will resume its place on the agenda following the adoption of the budget. So we're in this public hearing, and do you have anybody that says that they want to address the board? Is anybody in the audience here to discuss or ask questions regarding the district expenditure budget? We'll wait a short time and see if there's any stragglers or whatever come in, and if not, then we'll go right back into the regular meeting, and then we'll come back to the construction. I don't want to be curt, but obviously, there's not going to be anybody that wants to address the board regarding that. So it's a public hearing. It's not for any report or anything else. It's for public input. So we're going to resume the regular meeting, and we're going to go to item A, 3A, discussion information on the Douglas High School construction update. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, we have Ellen from Sketch, no. Estimated Plus, yeah. And I'm not sure if Rob is on the line too. So, board, you attended a tour of the site, some of you did, about 2 weeks ago. And during that time, they shared some new information regarding some potential delays that would cause the building not to be completed by the expected date, which was around fall break or so. And so at that time, we felt that it was important for them to give a detailed report today to the board and to our staff and community so that we are prepared with what delays are happening, why are they happening, and what do we need to do or you need to do as a board, and we need to do it as a staff to prepare for, the opening of next school years.
Okay, if Alan, is it Alan?
Ellen
If
and
you
Rob.
would just directly
Address the board.
address the board regarding the biggest thing and the biggest concern are the transformers.
Yes.
Which could result in a delay of the occupancy of the district, okay? So, Alan, if you just, it's been a couple of weeks, I think, since they've had an opportunity to talk to APS and do whatever they had to, and if you could kind of just bring us up to date where you are on that transformer.
Yes, of course. I think what I'd like to do, if it's all right with the board, is just to give you a very high-level chronological overview as to how we've been working with APS. We started off in January 21 by issuing them drawings and a preliminary schedule, so that's a year and a half ago. At the time that Adolfson and Peterson, the contractors, were awarded the contract within a month, they arranged a meeting with AP to have a project schedule discussed, and at that stage in time, APS was advised what kind of a delay, what kind of a schedule we needed, and when this thing needed to be completed. We stayed in regular communication with APS from October all the way through to April. They were difficult to speak with, but we did stay in communication with them. And they were told that they need to get the design sorted out and to be on site. They arrived on site on May to do a site meeting, and they agreed that the power would be on by July, which sounded fine. We moved on from there. Unfortunately, June 14th, we received a letter which I handed out when we were doing the tour of the site, where they indicated that there'd be a delay from APS, and the reason for the delay, as we subsequently found out, had to do with some internal design issues and just procurement problems that APS has been experiencing. So we immediately after we had the meeting on site, and we shared that letter with you, Rob and myself, we organized a meeting, or initiated a meeting with Matt Riso of APS, the regional director, and he informed us, in fact, today, we got hold of him again, that they have located a transformer. That's the good news, and that the delivery date of October, unfortunately still October, is what they are anticipating. So really what it comes down to is that Matt Riso has indicated that due to internal design issues and I guess procurement problems, that has caused the delay. But on the positive side, the transformer has been located. It is currently in Arizona, and it is still scheduled for delivery for power to be switched on by October. What we intend doing from this point onwards to make sure that we keep them on track is we've requested from Matt Riso that either himself or one of his people that work for him attend our weekly site meetings, and that we work very closely with Adolfson and Peterson and Amigo Electrical on a week-to-week basis until we literally get that transformer in place. One of the things that they do claim had an effect on the delay was they changed the design after they originally visited the site, but I personally think that wasn't the entire story. I truly do believe that it was an internal issue at APS. But all I can say is we're not happy about October delivery as opposed to a July delivery. But on the positive side, we do have a transformer where unfortunately we know in other instances that transformers are taking up to 6 months to try and get hold of. We actually have a project we're working on at the moment where we have 180 days just to order the transformer, and then 100 days for the transformer to be made. So we're cautiously optimistic but feeling positive that October is still on schedule, and we will literally have Matt Riso and one of his team or somebody on his team at our regular meetings just to make sure that they stay on top of the date that they've given us. I wish I had better news about the October delivery, but I guess unfortunately that is what we have from these guys. And I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have, either myself or Rob.
Alan, this is Ray Bryan. We had a brief discussion on the site, and as it was expressed to you, the concern. I'm still wondering, because you're talking about the design, and then you knew initially what the design was going to be. When exactly? Because the inconvenience, and obviously there's going to be one. When did you notify APS that there was going to be a necessity of whatever that transformer's capacity was?
Oh, no, there was never a design issue on our stage. The modification or the design issue was on the part of APS. They discovered when they visited the site in May that there were certain design changes that they needed to make. They did express that information to us in May, and they at that stage indicated that power would be switched on right around July, which is the date that we walked away from the May meeting on. And it was only the following month in June when we received that letter from them telling us that there had been certain delays internally from them.
So, in your estimation, with where we are today, with that at that site, what does the if you can extrapolate a little bit, taking into consideration the time of delivery, and as you just said, they're going to have to manufacture it, so that's another main issue. But what could you tell the district about what your estimate is of actually being able to occupy that building, taking into consideration all these concerns?
As long as the transformer is delivered and we receive power from them, which they promised us in their last letter that they sent us, we're still talking about, once we receive power, having the building ready by the end of November. That allows us to get everything in place, tested, have everything acclimatized, and get final inspections the month of November. So we're still talking the original date that we told you about when we met on site, that it should be roughly around or about, well, in fact, there were 3 dates, but 11/15 was for Building R, Building V was 11/22, Building S 11/29, and Building T 11/29. So it's staggered over a period of a couple of weeks, but we are talking about the buildings being completed by 11/29. And that the good news, or the positive news, if there is positive news over here, is that the transformer is available. The transformer is sitting in Phoenix at the moment, and that we don't have to rely on them still finding a transformer.
Well, they have a hard time keeping the lights on in Douglas, but, well, I'll defer to the board. Board members, do you have any questions regarding?
Well, if the transformer has been located and it's there, then it's going to take that long to transport it here? Am I missing
Well,
something?
I understood
No,
him. Initially, he said that they had to manufacture it. Now he's saying it's in Phoenix. I don't know. Go ahead and direct the question to him.
So that's my question is, is transportation, it's going to take that long to transport it?
No. What's got to happen is now that they have the transformer, they have certain things that they have to get done. They will be on site next week to arrange the location and to arrange the necessary conduits and the wiring to the SES from the transformer, and to arrange exactly where the transformer has got to be seated on the pad. But they've definitely got some work ahead of them before the transformer can actually be switched on.
If I could interject, Alan. This is Rob Bergheimer. I'm the architect. So, just to kind of get everybody on the right page, there was a design change that APS has to do internally to service this site. Okay, that design change has not been, we don't have that information yet from APS, but we're promised by early next week we will have what that design change is exactly. We don't know right now what they have to do to route power in. It's not our issue, it's their issue, but we have to provide conduits, and we have to trench to those locations that they tell us that we got to trench to. So we're waiting for that information to come. So that will be coming. We're anticipating, or been promised, we should have that by early next week, and then we will then be able to start to go on our end to dig and prepare the conduits and the trenching for these the feeders for this transformer. So that is going to happen here over the next couple of weeks. That takes a little bit of time, and then once we get all that in place, then APS will come out and then they will pull wire through our conduits that we provide for them, and we have a pad prep for the transformer that we will prepare, and they will set the transformer and pull the wire all in one day. So, but we have to be prepared for when they are going to come out, and we don't have a design as of yet that's approved by themselves for their service. So we're waiting for that information to come. But we were concerned that we didn't have a transformer. So as of this morning, we discovered they have located a transformer. I think they stole it from another project. I'm sorry for the people on the west side of town, but they're probably going to be missing a transformer. But they found one for us, and it's earmarked for our project, which is one of the biggest concerns that we all had as a team. So that's coming. It's here. So now we just need to wait for this design to come, and then we can do the work that we need to do to prepare for that.
Caesar, is that conduit, that trench part of the contract?
I believe it is, right, Rob? I don't remember seeing that conduit in the contract, though.
Rob,
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
The question from Mr. Bahrain to Mr. Soto was, is that trench and that conduit work that needs to be done part of the contract?
It's part of the contract. It's part of Adolphson and Peter's contract, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, members of the board, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions, Mr. Ramos? All right, I guess that, I want to thank them
Yes.
for that update, because I've got some questions for Melissa that I think are pretty serious. Alan, thank you very much for that update.
Thank you very much. I wish we could bring you more pleasant news, that we could bring the date back a couple of months. But on the positive side, we're glad that we do have a transformer earmarked for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, locally, Melissa, what you heard what they said, and it's that's always an estimate. What is that going to do to you? Why don't you come on up here, because this is going to be important.
Good afternoon, everyone.
She's been on vacation.
Yes. So, I mean, initially we were excited to be with the possibility of moving into those new buildings by October. But we haven't made any drastic changes to our schedule or maybe to room assignments or locations. So teachers know that they're staying put where they're at. Currently, we're not making any changes thus far, just because we never know what will happen. So we're willing to continue to wait patiently until we can make those changes. But as of now, we're still running on our regular master schedules, same room assignments.
Okay.
There's no changes in what we're doing at DHS.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Yes, and we've been talking about it, so.
Okay, good. That's the big concern, the disruption, the transition, all that. So if you're okay with it, because they know they're going to have some issues with this board regarding that, because of the penalty clauses and all those kinds of things. But you don't need to worry about that. You just need to worry about getting those kids in that classroom.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks, Melissa. All right. Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments regarding any other that issue, Mr. Ramos?
No.
Nothing. Let's move on then to item 3C, discussion action on the approval of certified hires. Ms. Samaniego?
Yes. As presented, you have 4 teachers for the next school year and some substitute teachers that will be also subbing in the next school year.
Okay. Can I get a motion on the floor to approve?
Yes, I move to approve the item C, approval of certified hires.
I second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you by Ms. Salchow. Discussion. I see Mr. Montano's back on there.
Yes.
Roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann? Yes. Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Item D, discussion action on the approval of classified resignations. Ms. Samaniego.
We're on D, right? Yes. So just a few classified staff resigning, for different positions across the district, so as presented.
Can I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the classified resignation, item D.
By Ms. Salchow, is there a second?
second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Item E, discussion action on the approval of classified hires. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, and obviously these people that are being recommended for hire are taking over some vacancies in the district.
Can I hear a motion to approve?
Yes, I move to approval of classified hires on item E.
Second
I second.
by Ms. Salchow. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item F, discussion action on the approval of athletic hires. Ms. Samaniego?
We have about 5 individuals for assistant boys soccer, assistant volleyball coach, and head wrestling coach, and you have all the background information there.
Got it. Entertain a motion to approve?
I move to approval of the athletic hires for item F.
Second
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item G. I'm
And
sorry.
Mr. Brain, I don't know if we have any new hires here today. I don't think so. It's all staff. Okay.
Item G, discussion action on the approval of classified transfers. Ms. Samaniego?
As presented, you have 2 staff that are going from one position to another one involving a difference in pay, and those are 2 individuals there.
Entertain a motion to approve
so moved.
by Mr. Ramos,
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item H, discussion action on the approval of increase in hours for the middle school ESS instructional aides. Ms. Samaniego?
All of these individuals are IAs in the district and currently have a 6.5-hour position or a 6-hour, and due to the demands and necessities of our ESS population and are being there to work with the kids entirely during the school day, we need to increase them all to 7.
And the funding for that is out of ESS?
It's
Yes,
MNO,
MNO.
yes, that's correct.
Right. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve?
I move we approve the increase in hours for middle school ESS instructional aides.
Is there a second?
second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item I, discussion information only for classified internal transfers. Excuse me, Ms. Samaniego.
And even though this is for information purposes only, I am removing Isela Torres from the agenda, so she's not going to move to Clausen after all. She's going to stay at Sarah Marley. So other than that, it's as presented, and no need for a vote.
That's just for information.
Yes,
Item J, discussion action on the approval of donations received for Douglas Unified School District number 27. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, we have $2,000 from Skills USA to Douglas High School Skills USA chapter, and a $3.30 from Box Tops for Education to Stevenson Elementary School.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the donations from Skills USA to Douglas High School and for box tops for education to Stevenson Elementary School.
Is there a second?
second.
Discussion? No clarification on the $3.30?
Sure, if you want me to do that.
No, it's not worth the time.
No, okay.
It's ridiculous. No, I'm sorry, it's because of the company that's involved. Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item K, discussion action to adopt the district annual expenditure budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. That's what we just had the public hearing on. And Mr. Soto.
You're right, Mr. Brain. A few days ago, we have the proposal of the budget for this coming school year. And like I said at that time, yes, we did got an increase from the state for enrollment, or the base amount increase. But because of the late in the approval, then we had to submit a proposed and an adopted budget based on the amount of this past year. We still haven't heard back from the state. When do we have to do a revision? Most likely probably September with the new numbers and with the new amounts. But as of right now, this is what we have. And again, we had that conversation previously. Another thing to think about is the tax rate. The tax rate is not approved yet from the county. That typically happens in August 15. So by when we have the next revision, then you'll have the property tax. Projections say that it's going to decrease a little bit again this year, minimally, but it's going to be reduced a little bit more, the property tax. I don't know if you have another specific question within
Well,
the
we'll get a
budget.
motion on the floor. But
Okay.
first of all, Sonia, you want to add anything to that? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve it.
I move to
Adopt it, actually.
adopt, to approve the adoption of the district annual expenditure budget for fiscal year 2022 and 2023.
Second,
I second.
any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes, item L, discussion action on the approval of appointment of district hearing officers for student discipline for the 2022-23 school year. Ms. Samaniego?
And this is a yearly thing that we do in order to address some of our long-term hearings. We have our current staff, so presenting Denise Cox, Katie Walker, the trust hearing officer list, and myself. And as soon as Mrs. Herrera completes her hearing officer training and does at least attends 5 hearing officer suspension trainings, then she will be part of that list, so as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve?
I move. So
Go ahead,
moved.
Ms. Salcho.
So moved. Or,
No,
excuse me.
well,
Well, you mean here? Okay, I move that we approve the appointment of the district hearing officers for the student discipline for the 2023 school year.
Mr. Ramos?
Second.
Got it.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes, item N, discussion action on the approval of authorized signatures for the district banking accounts at Wells Fargo Bank for fiscal year 2022-2023. Mr. Soto.
This is a yearly thing that we have to do to have the people that are authorized to sign the checks for the district, and it's the same people as last year.
Entertain a motion to approve?
I move to approve the authorization of signatures for the district banking accounts at Wells Fargo Bank for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Second,
Second.
by Ms. Salcho, and of course, the signatures are attached, right? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item N, discussion action on the approval of the appointment of Cesar Soto, Chief Financial and Operations Officer, as Student Activities Auxiliary Treasurer for the district. I'll entertain a motion to approve that. Mr. Ramos?
Yes. I move to approve the appointment of Mr. Cesar Soto, Chief Financial and Operations and Officer as a Student Activities and Auxiliary Treasurer for the district.
Second,
Second.
by Ms. Salcho. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes, item O, discussion action on the approval of district authorized signatures for Empower Retirement, voluntary retirement, company. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, this is part of one of the companies that employees can volunteer or put into their 403B, and so this would allow us to be able to sign any of the documents that are requested by the company. So Mrs. Cox and myself.
Entertain a motion to approve?
I move we approve the district the district authorized signatures for Empower Retirement, voluntary retirement company.
There a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item P, discussion action on the approval of addendums of the Stepping Stones Group for ESS Department. Ms. Samaniego?
What you have here is that because of the caseload of children that need to get the services and be identified, We are requesting to add these two addendas, one addenda, which is allowing us to get some psychologists on an hourly basis. And the addendas were already approved and reviewed by our attorney. So as you have it there, the cost is $65 an hour and $67 an hour if they're bilingual.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the addendums for the Stepping Stones group for the ESS department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item Q, pursuant to ARS 38-431.02 subsection D, the following item, 3Q, is being added as an emergency. Let me first of all give an explanation for the record, which we legally have to do. This item is put on the agenda by me, and I wanted to put it on, see if I get the dates right, last Friday, but you need 24 hours, and holidays and weekends don't
Sundays.
count. So we had to do it as an emergency, but nonetheless, it's on the agenda. And the reason for the emergency is there has been a lot of misinformation and a lot of confusion regarding the action the board took on, I believe the meeting was June 30th. And during that meeting, the board approved a release contract by Mr. Angel Ortega. And within their purview and their authority, and according to policy, the board elected, and by open vote during the meeting, to accept his, like they did the other three, I believe, with the exception of one, and I'll get into that in a minute. His release of contract was approved with $1,000 liquidated damages and rehirable as a teacher. And since that time, I don't know about the rest of the board members, but there has been, and it's been brought to my attention, specifically calling me, because the information that got out was that Mr. Ortega was the action taken by the board regarding his status, and that's the reason I'm recommending that we change it, and I'll get to that in a minute, was because of his performance. And I want to go through this whole procedure and the dynamics that the board goes through, and I think it's time people really understood what happens when a district employee retires, resigns, or wants to be released from contract. The first thing that happens is that the employee has to make the request to the district, and then they're given a letter, and the letter states specifically what they are requesting and what the board will be discussing in executive session. And the thing that's important here is that specifically in the letter, it says, and this is the letter that was written to one of them, and it's generic, and it says, you're hereby notified, according to ARS 38-431.03, subsection A, number 1, that an executive session may be held at the board meeting scheduled for Thursday, June the 30th, 2022 at 10 a.m. The Douglas Unified School District number 27 Governing Board will discuss your request of the release of your fiscal year 2022-2023 contract. And then at the bottom, it says, very important, you may request that the discussion take place in open session rather than executive session by contacting the superintendent's office 24 hours before 10 a.m. Subsequent to that, we put the item on the agenda. None of them requested that it be held in open session. Subsequent to that, the board met on June the 30th, and the item on the agenda was that the governing board may vote into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1, which, by the way, is to discuss personnel matters, because there's about 7 items that you can go into executive session for, and you have to designate on the agenda which one you're going to talk about. And this one says, for every one of them, consideration of requests for release of the 2023 contract, specifically that. So when the board sees that and they vote to go into executive session, then the board has to follow state statute and district policy. And the policy is GCQC, which talks about resignation of professional staff members. Now, the question is always asked in comments regarding this because when people look at the policy, it's very specific. It says teacher. However, the law in the district recognizes that administrators have teaching certificates as well, but that the title of the policy is resignation of professional staff members. So that will hopefully dispel any doubt that anybody might have as to whether it applies or not. And it's the same way in the statute that I will review for you in a minute, because it says teacher, and that one talks about the breaking of a contract. But in the policy, it talks specifically about the governing board believes that when a staff member resigns or otherwise fails to honor an employment contract, there are damages to the district that are not easily ascertainable. Recruitment of professional staff members normally is seasonal. Failure to honor an employment contract results in, but is not limited to, the following losses to the district: the employee time used in recruitment and replacement of the staff member who is resigning, the lost opportunity to employ candidates available at the time of initial recruitment, prior and additional advertising for the position, indirect costs of recruitment and replacement, including travel, lodging, food, and communications, district personnel time necessary to coordinate and provide class, extra class substitute, and ancillary assignment changes, as well as orientation of the new employees. In the event a staff member asks the board to approve a resignation prior to the end of a contract term, any such approval may be conditioned upon payment by the staff member of liquidated damages according to the scale, unless the governing board waives payment pursuant to this policy, or unless the governing board determines that some other condition is appropriate in light of the specific circumstances. And then it lists the scales. Now, when we talk about liquidated damages and the inconvenience to the district, we looked specifically at those four. 3 were teachers. 1 was the athletic director and the assistant principal at the high school. When you look at the criteria that's mentioned in there, when the district has the prerogative to assess damages, and it lists them, it says among others, which means we can do anything else within the law. The major consideration with those teachers in the official action that was taken in an open meeting, and the vote was done out here, after the discussion in executive session solely about the release of the contract, had nothing whatsoever to do with performance. Performance wasn't even part of the discussion, because we couldn't discuss anything but the things that it was advertised for and the things that they were notified was going to be addressed. Now, when we looked at the teachers and we came out here, we assessed damages to every one of them with the exception of one, because the administration assured the board that that person was going to be rehired on the ESI program. So there was no damage done there. So the board waived that. The other 2 in the discussion regarding their damages or what the effects on the district were if they were adverse were specifically the difficulty in recruitment. Today's day and age, with the way the legislature and the state board has gone, it really takes nothing to put a substitute teacher in a classroom. But that's to the detriment of our students. However, we can put anybody in there that's a high school graduate that is recommended by the district for an emergency certificate. You don't even need a degree anymore. And I think the administration has gone over that time and time again with us, that substitute teachers are very, very easily attainable. They're not ideal because we're not putting a professional staff person in there. But when you come to an athletic director and an assistant principal board members, you're looking at a dual certification, and you're looking at an extremely high level of responsibility and knowledge. There are 2 vacancies in Cochise County now. There were 4, I think, up until last week for athletic directors. And when you look at the athletic director in the Douglas Unified School District, you're looking at a person that needs to know and make recommendations regarding personnel, hiring, replacement of coaches at lead, evaluation of coaches, budgeting, athletic revenues, purchasing of equipment, overseeing the auxiliary and the student account to a degree, and everything else that is pertinent to those duties and responsibility. That, at the minimum, needs a supervisor's certificate. When you look at the assistant principal's job, now you're looking at another certification. You're looking at a administrator's certification, a principal's certificate. Now, if you have a principal's certificate, that will serve for both, but you cannot be in a position, any position, but without the minimum of the supervisory position for the athletic director. So when the board looked at that, and I'm sure in all their wisdom, when they came out of that executive session and they had to evaluate how the effect of that was going to be on the district, that was taken into consideration. That is going to be an extremely hard position to fill. So whatever the motivation was, because the voting always takes place out here, the discussion takes place in executive session, no decision can be made in there. The discussion has to revolve around specifically what the law permits it to be. And that is only the thing that they're notified is going to be discussed. And that was the release of the contract, nothing more. Now, what happens when we came out here and the board approved them all, the statement was made by the board member that made the motion that the person could be hired as a teacher for whatever the reason or the motivation. And that's what the board went along with based on what we knew. Now, the alternative to those people, had they not been released officially by the board, and this is extremely important, if we had come out here and said on any one of them that the board isn't going to release them, and they had prior commitments or plans to do whatever, and part of those commitments or plans were not the Douglas Unified School District, and we did not release them, they were in a conundrum as to what they were going to do. They had to make a decision. Now, if they made a decision to say, oh, well, I'm going to break the contract anyway, then the state law kicks in. And the state law says that a certificated teacher shall not resign after signing and returning his contract unless the resignation is first approved by the governing board. A teacher who resigns contrary to this section shall be deemed to commit an unprofessional act, and upon request of the governing board shall be subject to such disciplinary action, including suspension or revocation of certificate, as the State Board of Education deems appropriate. So we didn't do that. We didn't put them in that quandary, none of them, and we accepted their release from contract and we approved it. Subsequent to that, unfortunately for the person involved and to the detriment of the district and the district's credibility, it began to circulate that the individual was, the determination by the board on his status was based on his professional performance. The reason I went to links to provide you with, with the information that we were working under the premises of, and within the law and within the policy, that it had absolutely nothing to do with performance. So when people would say, that person did an outstanding job, why would they have done this, why would they have done that? We need to clarify that because of the integrity of the district, and also so that it wouldn't be detrimental to the employee, to be quite honest with you. So I have put that back on the agenda and going to recommend to the board that we include for that individual, just in good faith, that there are no restrictions as to what his rehirability would be. That he can be rehired like anybody else, and he gets a blanket rehired for any position in the district for which he is qualified or certified. So that's my recommendation to the board, and I want to make sure that our employees understand the severity of asking to break or release a contract and the importance of being clear as to what their intentions are and what the intentions and the motivation of the district is. So with that, I'm going to entertain a motion that the board approve the status of Mr. Angel Ortega to be all-encompassing, that he be rehirable for anything for which he's certified and qualified, and it maybe takes the stigma, which he considered, I guess, off of him, and the public's misconception of why the board did what they did. So I'm going to entertain a motion to approve that here today.
Mr. President, I move to approve Mr. Angel Ortega's rehirable status for any position for which he is qualified and certified.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Administration, any questions or comments regarding that?
No.
Roll call.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you have a question or comment?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I'm
she was already voting.
I'm sorry, I'm
Go ahead.
voting.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berring?
Yes. And we wish you the best, Mr. Ortega, in your new endeavors. Announcements.
Next regular board meeting, August the 2nd, and again, the first day of school is August the 3rd. And if we need to have a special board meeting due to more hires, then I will have Alma contact the board.
Sonia, how did Mr. Ortega do today? Okay, are you satisfied with how he did?
Mr. Soto. not
I
Mr.
mean, Mr. Soto, Mr. Ortega, I'm sorry, oh, he's gone. Entertain a motion to adjourn.